Podcast 100. Chris is wearing a goofy sweater.
Goofy sweater
Why are you wearing a sweater?
because I'm warming up for my ugly sweater contest at
Okay.
church.
All right.
They have they're gonna have an ugly sweater contest, and I just got this sweater, so I had to try it on. And I thought it would be funny to wear it on here.
That's an ugly sweater.
It is.
Everybody should comment
It's
if
comfortable.
Chris's sweater is ugly.
It's comfortable,
All right.
but
You
ugly.
got you got snow, right? It's snowing up there?
Yeah. We got. I bet you the grass probably had a half inch,
Yeah,
but now it's raining and it's really sloppy out.
yeah, it snowed here for probably like 4 hours. Nothing really laid, but now it's snowing or raining, sorry.
Yeah.
So now it's all just a mess.
And we're
Um,
recording on a Friday, the 22nd. Tomorrow is the first day of bear here in PA.
yes it is. Yep.
So
I'm
hopefully it's not raining.
Yeah, I'm done hunting until next Saturday, next weekend, where me and TJ are going rifle hunting.
Mhm.
So I'm done till then. Um,
S-
what was I going to say? Oh, just a quick announcement. Might as well start announcing it now. Is I'm curious if anybody shoot us a message, comment, whatever. Great American Outdoor Show 2025.
he's on a roll.
How many times have I mentioned that in the past 3 weeks?
He wants to go.
Yeah, I want to go, even though we say we hate it every single time. We say we hate the Great American Outdoor Show, but
Yeah.
it kind of, to me, it like breaks up the winter time. Like it's something to do in February to go and you see some people and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
Yeah. I like to go see the people we know and
it's
some of the
fun.
vendors we know. And,
Yep.
uh,
Which I got some bad news for some people this year, but
but yeah, I
uh
mean, I do enjoy going to it, but
yeah,
yeah, we always come away disappointed.
every time.
But
But hey,
every once in a while, there's a new product that's pretty cool,
yeah,
and I like to
and
go put my hands on stuff. I don't know.
yeah, and if people are going that's listening, let us know. And meet up. We met up with some. I think we met. Yeah, we
Yeah,
met up with some people last year.
yeah,
So
we met up with Matt and Howie
yep. So
last
if you guys are going, plan ahead and let us know because we'll be there the opening Saturday, as long as it's not like a blizzard outside. But
year. Yeah, if it's not too bad.
because you got to travel like 3 hours and I travel about an
Mhm.
hour and 30 minutes or so. So
Yeah,
let us know if you're going, and
yeah,
we'll meet up with you.
for sure.
Take a picture with two losers on a podcast,
Two bald guys.
two bald guys on a podcast.
Uh,
Um, Chris, what's today podcast about?
why don't we? Why don't we? Let's talk about how to evaluate your property from what you've
Ooh,
seen, what
ooh.
you saw this summer and fall, and this beginning of the archery season here. What you saw that you think you need to change and your plan of attack to do that this
And
this winter.
that's a good one. I want to talk about too because recently it's getting into that season. Uh, my phone's ringing. Sorry. We're getting into that season that people want to start improving the property, and I'm starting to get tons of phone calls for consulting now. People are starting to book, and it's getting really busy. But I want to talk about a common theme or trend that I hear from clients that are calling me. It's like 75% of, hey, I'm having this problem. I need help fixing it.
Hmm,
So I'll talk about that too, where I see it's a common theme between all the customers that are or clients that are calling me.
okay.
So why don't you start out? I mean, how would moving into the new year? What do you evaluate? What's some things to look for, I guess, and maybe some ways to fix it, I guess.
Well, I don't have that much my own property to be able to be doing this stuff. So I'm not a really good advocate of, of all this stuff. But if you have your own piece or a large parcel that you can do some work on, you know, you need to evaluate the browse that you have there. Evaluate the food plots if you've been planning food plots. How'd that work out for you this year? Um, uh, you know, excluding the weather that we had. Holy crap, that was horrible.
Yeah, it was
Drought,
warm.
drought, and then we had the monsoon, and then we had drought again, and now we're in a wet portion again right here, right now. Uh, the plots seem like a common theme uh, northeast here that people didn't do very well with their plots. I mean,
It was so dry.
it was so bad, people were just burned up. You know, lip lip high, burned up, nothing
Yeah,
out there. You know,
I
people were actually replanting in September and October.
right.
You know, I had quite a few people texting me asking me, "What should I do? I don't have a plot." And of course, I always tell them you don't need a plot, but if you think you need a plot, you know what we always say: you can save it. Wheat, oats, and rye. You can always throw something like that in there. Mix in some clover so you have something in the spring with the wheat and the rye.
I want to
And
ask you something real quick too.
go ahead.
If you have, let's just say a small property,
Hmm.
what do you think is more important in most cases? Creating a bedding area or having a food plot?
Oh, I like food plots. Bedding area, I don't care where they're bedding, as long as they're coming through my property and hit that food plot and they pause for 1 second so I can look them over.
Hmm.
I'm not worried about where deer bed. So, I hate, and is this your 75% of the problems?
Mm-mm. No,
Okay. I was gonna say, I hate when people tell me I want to create bedding areas on my property. I hate to hear that. I really
I
do.
I like it when it's appropriate, but I
It
like it
has to
for
be appropriate.
larger properties.
But I'm betting over half the people that want them, it's not appropriate.
Yeah, yeah. Most of the times that I see that people want it, it's like a 5 acre piece of property,
Yeah.
or something where they want to create 3/4 of it in bedding, and then they mess it up worse because
It
then there's nowhere
it
to
doesn't
maneuver.
make sense. How
Yeah,
do you get to your stand without
right.
spooking them then?
Yeah, larger
It's
properties you can
silly.
do it. It makes sense. I set them up with clients on larger properties. You know, say 50 plus, because you can dedicate, sometimes certain areas. But even then, that bedding area, doesn't mean that something's going to bed there. You may be hunting a specific buck, but it doesn't mean that specific buck's going to bed there. And
No,
even if it did bed there, it may only bed there one time.
could.
A deer doesn't bed in the same spot every time.
No.
So the larger the properties get, the more bedding, and then the more you can pack deer in there and bed them, and then you can start controlling the movement, because deer do want to bed close to food. But if you have that smaller property, you start putting the bedding in there, then you lose the maneuverability around your property,
Yeah.
and it can create some problems. So
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had over 100 acres at that lease you and I were working on,
Mhm.
and we didn't put a whole lot of time into bedding.
Well, there was
And
already a lot of natural bedding there from when they timbered it.
right, and they was coming off the neighbors' properties a lot anyhow.
Hmm.
So that was not high on our priority list. We wanted to get nutrition in there.
Yeah, and we changed the whole dynamic of that property.
Changed it, and this is what we need to talk about here today. I mean, like I said, I started to say I hate to hear people say they want bedding, they want bedding. I don't care where they're bedding, as long as they're coming through your property. uh, be happy that they're doing that, and that's the
Hmm.
ultimate goal. Is you want to see deer, right? You're not seeing deer if they're bedded. They have to come to you anyhow. So that's one of my pet peeves. Unless, like you said, unless it's appropriate, if they have 100+ acres and they can dedicate an area and not go in there,
Yeah, if you
that
can
type
if
of
you
thing.
can dedicate a 10 or 15 or 20 acre slot,
Yeah.
just for like a sanctuary,
Hmm.
and deer can flood in there, then you have food, and they can try,
Yeah,
they
they can
can bed in
travel
there.
back and forth.
I mean, that's ideal. But when
Right.
you start creating, all that bedding on trying to pack deer onto your 5 acres or
Hmm.
whatever it can create a problem.
Hmm.
And then if your neighbor has a food plot and you create bedding on the side of it or something, and then you don't have a food plot and you created bedding, those deer are going to bed on your property and then travel to their food plot.
Yeah.
So it can get tricky. But if
Yeah.
it's appropriate, I think it makes sense to have. But like you said, on the other property we had, I did focus a little bit on bedding, but not much because it was timbered. They had a lot of natural
Yeah.
areas where they bedded already,
Hmm.
and we created that food, and we sucked the deer out
Yeah.
of the timber of neighbors. I mean, they came. I mean, they just focused in on that, and I mean,
Hmm.
we changed the whole
Yeah.
dynamic, and
It didn't have turkeys when we got there.
nope, we
You know,
had
after the first year, we had tons of turkeys there. I
epic
mean,
turkey hunting.
it just turned around when you have
Yeah,
nutrition. I
yeah.
mean, and I think one of the things people should, you know, really zone in on also is obviously travel corridors.
Hmm.
I like making sure that they have easy access to that plot. You know,
Hmm.
um, I set stands like where I was hunting. It was an old farmer's field, so there was barbed wire and stuff all around it. And where the old fence had fallen down and things, and they were crossing there, of course, that's where I would try to get a stand in there, a stand location, because they're using spots like that. So, you need to keep your eye open for things like that too.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously, entrance and exits, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, in my situation, it's hard. That's an evening hunt only over there because you can't get into it. The entrance is horrible.
Hmm.
And a lot of times the exit isn't that great either if you get a lot of deer underneath you when it gets dark. I'm stuck in
Hmm.
that tree quite often if I go over there to hunt. So I I limit my sits over there. I haven't been over there in a week and a half. You know, I have very limited sits over there. So um,
Your sweater's killing me, by the way.
get the full effect.
There you go.
Got some snowflakes on there. So
Keep going.
yeah. So the I think that's important stuff. Entrance exits, um, travel corridors. Put the nutrition on these plots or on these places. Um, what else can you think of?
I got some stuff.
I mean, people are big into this TSI stuff anymore and hinge cutting and all that. And I mean, if you have some low desirable timber that you want to lay down, I guess that's okay to do
Hmm.
stuff like that. Um,
Well,
but
timbering,
there,
it's
there
a
again, it needs to be an appropriate situation.
yeah, like timbering is a very important part because if you don't have any natural browse, you got to open up the sunlight.
Yeah,
So
and if they want to, yeah, if they're opening it, I can't say it, opening it up. If they're opening it up for sunlight and they're going to get sunlight down and they're going to create that browse, I
that's
mean
a
that's a
that's a
great thing to do.
yeah, that's an
You know,
appropriate
that's an
situation.
appropriate
You know.
situation, and that could be part of your corridor too. If
Hmm.
you're hinging, opening this way, each way, dropping trees, either direction and getting sunlight down, they'll naturally come through there browsing on their way to the plot. So
Hmm.
you're actually making a little food highway type thing right to your plot and
Yeah.
making it easy to get to.
Well,
So,
you also have to have the right timber to hinge cut. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be hinge cutting big diameter, big diameter trees
right.
like if you got big pines and cedars and all that. But in that situation, you would just flush cut them and get them either lay them down or get them out of there, and then
Yep.
so you can open up that canopy. But if you got small, maples or elm or small, un or misshaped oaks or something, you can hinge cut them to create certain areas. But what I wanted to get into was uh, this
Get into
common
it.
I am. This common theme that I see with customers, and it relates to what you said with the travel corridors, really. But um, the latest client that I talked to was a couple days ago, he's got this property and there's big deer there, but he can't kill them because like he hunts in one spot, the deer's 60 yards over that way. He
Yeah.
hunts over in that spot, they're 60 yards this way, or they're 60
Mhm.
yards that way, or 100 yards that way. He can't pin them down.
That's common, yeah.
Yeah, it's very common, and that's what I hear all the time. I just can't get on them.
Mhm.
I'm trying to hunt with a bow, I can't get on them. Well, in that case, that tells me that the property, say you have a square property, that whole property is the same habitat wise. There's nothing that attracts them over to here or over here or over there. They're just kind of willy nilly through the property. And
Mhm.
in that case, you have to create defined movement by making cuts, blocking off a certain deer trail, forcing them to a side of the property where you have a common wind, forcing them that way so you can hunt a common wind, and then blocking off certain trails to force them this way, or having food in a certain area, or having, a timbered area, or, select cutting a certain area to kind of define that movement. And that's what he was having issues with. And he hired me and I'm going there. But I had another guy call me today where he said the same thing. He's got 100 acres and, if he hunts over there, the deer are over here and he can't some he's like, sometimes I see some good bucks during the day, but
Mhm.
he's like 90% of it is at nighttime. Why? And he sent me an arrow photo and I looked at it and I said, I can tell you why right now. So there's a lot of that going on. And but it takes an evaluation, and it actually takes, I think it takes failures for you to realize that, like, each year you
Yeah.
should take notes, like, what is my property lacking? Is it lacking bedding, but is it appropriate, or is it lacking a food plot, or is it because you're going in there willy-nilly spooking the deer out? Are you putting feeders out and the deer hitting the feeders at nighttime? All these things are common, but they can be corrected, you know.
Yeah. You can
Um,
definitely fix that stuff.
and a guy admitted today, or the guy I talked to a couple days ago that I'm going to, he said that super nice guy. He's all excited to get some stuff going, but he went um he went somewhere to a butcher shop or something, and he was talking to all these hunters, and the hunters told him, they're like, "Oh man, you got to get into the center of your property. You got to sit in the center of your property and everything." And then when he started doing that, he said literally within 3 days, all the deer went nocturnal.
Hmm.
Because he's going into the center of his property and he's spooking the deer out.
Mm.
It's best to hunt the edges, but then he can't really hunt the edges because when he does, the deer are in the center. So he needs something to create definition through his property, and that's what we're going to focus on. I mean,
Mm.
the guy hired me for like 3 days worth of work, 4 days worth of work, really. But I mean, I'll be cutting, I'll be doing laying out food plots and marking trees and all that. But that's a common issue, is they have deer, but they can't kill them. How do you
Mm.
define the movement? And I had one client this year that shot a really nice 8 pointer from Ohio, and he had 2 acres of property.
Hmm.
That you remember that property that I went
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, I remember that.
um, and we did some stuff there. We did a travel corridor through his little 2 acre property to a food plot, and he's had more deer this year than he ever has, more
Mhm.
bucks. So there's all kinds of things to do, but it's all about evaluation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Food or bedding or travel routes, or and
I
another
don't
client.
Good.
I had another guy call last week, and he's torn up. He's 50-50 on baiting deer with the corn. He's in
Mhm.
Maryland, but he's 50-50 on it. He's like, if I do it, he said, the deer are nocturnal. But if
Yeah.
I don't do it, I'm afraid that if I don't do it, the neighbors are going to attract the deer because they're baiting too.
You're right.
So what does he do? Do you bait or not
Mhm.
bait? So
Mhm.
there's all kinds of issues out there, especially when you're hunting in an area that has high pressure, where all your neighbors are hunting. It's a difficult situation, and I've seen some uh, habitat managers over the past couple weeks saying that it doesn't matter what your neighbors are doing,
Huh.
and I call BS on it.
Yeah.
That is a BS statement because it 100% matters what your neighbors are doing. Now, the bigger your property is, the less it matters. The smaller your property is, the more that it matters.
Well, I think you should rephrase that and say the more attractive your property is, and don't worry about the neighbors as much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you.
So,
I mean, size, but I mean, it has to be attractable too.
well, yeah, yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
of course, yep. But there's so
So,
many variables, and I always say too, it's always property dependent. Somebody's property is going to be better
yeah.
than the next one, whether it's a mile away, half a mile away. There's a property out there that deer just want to be on, especially bucks.
Yeah.
They feel safe there. You could have two of those properties a half mile apart. Both of them have less pressure, but guess what? That buck is going to pick one of those properties because there's something
Mhm.
there that he wants to that attracts him, whether it's just the topography of the land, or one has more cedar trees than the other, or whatever it is. There's a special,
There,
you know,
they
they
they read they read the topography also.
Mhm.
They know where they want to go, easiest routes or whatnot.
Yep.
I mean, and that's kind of what I was getting at when we opened up this podcast was, what did you see
Hmm.
that you would like to change?
Right.
And one of the things I was thinking about when you just said that was, for instance, my neighbors out here that are butted up against my property, they've had this ladder stand down here in the woods forever. And because there's an apple tree up here in the backyard and a pear tree and my food plots, they they figure since that apple tree's there, that's where the stand should be, I guess. And they think that the deer are going to walk right up to them and come to that apple tree. And the apples and pears are gone by season anyhow, normally.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I guess that's their way of thinking that the deer in the summertime are hitting that apple tree, but they dump that stand in. Now, I can tell you from experience, me being on my lower property, watching back up towards the house in the apple tree area, those deer never go near that stand. Never. They never go that route because
Yeah.
it's straight uphill to the backyard. They don't want to go straight uphill. They take a side and they walk around that side hill and they pop out further down the property.
Hmm.
And if they want to come to that apple tree, they walk across the backyard. They don't go straight uphill to that tree.
Yeah, they're going to follow the layout of the land, the easiest
Yeah, I mean,
resist, the
and I'm
least
hoping
passive resistance.
people are noticing that when they're out this year. Like you said, this guy, he's putting a stand here, but the deer are over there all the time. Well, then, like you said, he either needs to do something different and get those deer attracted to come past him so he can get a shot, or he just needs to move a stand somewhere else on an edge somewhere and cut them off at another corridor coming onto his property or something.
Yeah, so deer are creatures of edge.
Hmm.
So, like you said, if you have this wide open field and an apple tree up there and it's going uphill,
Yeah.
they're not going to walk straight through that open field uphill. They're
No.
going to follow the woods line or a
Yep.
hedgerow or a dip in the whatever it is, the path of least resistance to get there.
Yeah.
Um, and depending what way the wind's blowing too, that they're going to walk with the wind in their face or whatever, and um, or side wind, whatever it is, but they're going to follow the edges, inside corners and
Yeah.
ridges and saddles and benches, and instead of them look at benches like you hunt. The deer
Yeah.
aren't walking straight up that bench.
No.
They're
No, they're not.
walking the side of that bench until it levels out
And that's
onto a
kind of
flat.
like I don't have property, so I hunt a lot of public. And the reason why I started out saying what I said, what did you see this year that you want to change? Because it was personal to me. Because this year, like, I have tons of trail camera pictures on scrapes and things from earlier on and early archery, but I don't go back to these two stands until the rut starts to kick off, or until the chasing phase and pre-rut and all that, like Halloween time. And it it was different this year. I don't know why, but the deer were all approaching in a different area um, than where my stands were placed. So I was able to. You got a picture of a deer in the snow.
That's the farm. Man, look how much snow they got.
Yeah. Wow. So I noticed that I placed my stands um, probably too close to the mock scrapes first of all. So
Hmm.
that was a lesson learned.
Yep.
I placed them too close. Um, and I need to be between that mock scrape and where I saw those deer approaching. Okay. So I know next year, just from that intel, what I saw, what I need to change. So I need to be a little more aggressive and go a little deeper to where these deer were approaching from. So that was my lesson learned, that I wanted to say on this podcast was I saw that particular instance that I need to change. What did you see? And that's
Well,
basically what I wanted to
the interesting
talk
thing
about.
is, what we're talking about also relates to public land because sometimes people don't have land to do it on, but you can always find it on public.
Yeah.
You can find the habitat features. You can find where pines meet up the hardwoods, or you can
Yep.
find the hedgerows or the
Yep.
corners or the ridges and benches and saddles. You can find all that there.
Yep.
It's
I'm on a bench right next to some bedding.
on private land. If you just have a solid square block of 40 acres and everything's the same,
It's all flat.
it's all flat. What do you do? The deer are just like this. People are having. They're just walking anywhere. So
Yeah.
you have to you have to manipulate that and create the definition of them to move in. You
See,
know,
I think I would have a hard time coming down there and hunting with you in Maryland where everything's flat because I don't have that here.
you're
You
in the
know,
mountains. It's
Yeah,
different.
and so
Different.
other people, like, from Maryland would probably have a hard time coming and hunting with me
Hmm.
because it's up, down, and around, and saddles and
Yep.
benches and things,
Yeah.
and I hunt a lot of side hills, and, people that hunt flatland are not familiar with that
Yeah.
type of hunting, So, I mean, it is definitely property dependent for sure,
That's
you know?
different. Sometimes, like you said, people struggle with the mountains. And then if you come from the mountains and go to flat, because if you go to a flat square piece of property and its entire section of pines for 40 acres, where do you hunt? Because it's
Right?
all the same, you
Yeah.
know? So you have to manipulate that and make the deer do what you want. So,
Well, like when we went down and hunted the Sika deer, like that was all flat, but
but
there
that
was
area
there
we
was
hunted,
but there
there's
was a
definition.
marsh. Yeah, there was a
Well, yeah,
marsh, and there was a clear cut, and there was an edge of woods,
hedgerow in the
and
middle.
I felt that the edge of the woods where a finger jutted out into a clear cut, I figured that would be a spot that would produce,
That
and
clear cut
it did.
has habitat
You know,
features in it.
it
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 has,
has features, but you have to be able to recognize it. I
yeah.
guess that's the point.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah. So
so we're at the 30-minute mark. So that's
that
going to be
came that came to a lot of
that
talking to
came to an
nothing.
abrupt
Stop.
stop.
Yeah.
So that's episode 100.
Yeah, we got it all out.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so yeah, if anybody has any questions, let us know. Look for the features, that your property has or doesn't have. Sometimes you have to create them and
Yeah, might have
uh
to make some changes.
yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. I'll do consulting and stuff, and then if there's something, where I have a client that's close to Chris, he'll meet me on the property too, and you'll have us both there. So, um let us know. Reach out to us and we can get you set up, or if you just have a simple question, reach out.
Yep.
So we'll
And
see
if you
you
like my
on.
sweater, comment.
Yeah, everybody should comment and say that is an ugly sweater.
Hopefully, I win the contest.
And also, can you believe that we went 100 episodes without missing any?
Yeah,
That's a lot of podcasts.
that is actually.
We're coming up on 2 years here in the next what 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Couple weeks. Yeah, right around New Year's. It'll be
Yeah,
2
will
years.
be crazy. Will be yeah, 2 years of podcasts.
Comment with some ideas that you want to hear talked about.
Hmm.
What content do you want to see or
More
hear
ugly,
about?
more ugly sweaters.
You want to see more content with me wearing ugly sweaters
Right.
or just
All right.
seeing Dave ugly?
Right. Exactly.